So we come to now the camera section, and the reason why we're talking about this because we're continuing our journey on the Android basics. We know for sure that when you set up your Android, some things are important. And to those of us who are blind, some people may think, hey, why in the world are you going to be using a camera? You're a blind person and all of that. But the good news is that we have some of the cameras that already tell us whether or not there's a face in the camera and what part of the camera that face is located. So it is important for us to be able to take pictures as long as we have a camera that happens to be one of those that tells us as to whether or not there's a face in our live view. And so there are probably about four cameras that we're going to talk about today. Some may not be very good, some may be very good. But we talk about this because some of you may have it and some of you may not have it, but there's always an alternative. And that's the good part about Android. The very first person or the very first company that started making cameras accessible to us and letting us know as to whether or not there's a face in the camera view happens to be, believe it or not, Samsung. And Samsung did that back in 2014 with the Galaxy S5. And so all that we have today in our Android world, most especially when it comes to those of us who are blind, we ought to be thankful to Samsung for making this possible. And so Samsung, kudos to you, my man. So now we have that in Google Camera. I think Google Camera didn't come till 2015 when we were able to have the ability to know as to whether or not there's any face in the camera, and that has to be with the Nexus 6P and the Nexus 5X. Those were the first ones in Google land. So with that, let's take a look at the Google camera. I'm going to be demonstrating the Google camera, and I also happen to have a Galaxy S8 here that a friend of mine sent it to me because they think they don't want it anymore or something like that. So I'm going to be comparing the two, and Austin will be talking about the open camera. That's an alternative for those who do not have access to the Google camera or do not have a Samsung phone and would simply install something like the open camera. And Austin, you'll also be talking about the OnePlus, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to open up mine now.
9:30 a.m. Device unlocked. Pixel launcher. Search.
So I'm going to go to
Voice search.
my camera.
Camera. Switch to camera mode. Zero faces. Close social share. Timer off. Flash off. Motion auto.
So
Limit 4:3.
we
Camera.
here
Take
it
photo
says
button.
zero faces. Now if I turn it,
One face. Top left. With 30% of screen. One face. Top center. With 30% of screen. Try portrait mode. One face. Top center. With 30% of screen. One face. Center. With 30% of screen.
so
Zero faces.
that's the Google camera because I was putting it at the back of the camera to myself. Let me test the front camera.
One face. Center. With 30% of screen. Good for selfie. Try raising camera for your selfie. One face. Center. With 20% of screen. One face. Center. With 30% of screen. Good for selfie. Try portrait mode.
So
Try raising camera for your selfie.
Google camera is really good because
Pixel
it
launcher.
tells me I should raise up the camera, raise up the phone, because if my face is appearing a little bit low at the bottom, then it lets me know. And that's how that works. And of course, if there's anything that is missing that I wish we had, would be the fact that we could be able to quickly label a picture that we just shot, taking a shot of.
Camera.
Right now, we don't
Close social
have
share.
that. So
Zero faces.
if
Camera.
I
Switch to front camera. Button.
now if I take a picture of my
One face. Bottom center. With 40% of screen. Good for selfie. One face. Center. With 30% of screen. Take photo. Button. Try portrait mode. Photo taken.
so I
Camera.
just
One face.
took a picture
Center.
of
With
me.
30% of screen.
Now, what
One
I
face.
was
One
talking
face.
about
Left.
is that
Close photo gallery.
I
Button.
wish we could
One
have
face.
something to
Photos.
rename the
Photo taken on
picture
April.
that I just taken. So I went into my gallery.
Photo taken on April 17th, 2021, 9:32:21 a.m. Back to camera. Button. Out of
So
filter. Motion on. Button.
it would be nice if we have a rename
Cast.
here.
Disconnected. All photos. More options.
In the more options, all I have
Two
is
recommended shots. Location. Map of the location at which the photo was taken. Button.
see
Location. Two recommended shots.
that's it. So and I
Photo taken on share. Photo taken on April 7th. Photo taken on
the
April 17th.
share
20 share. Photo taken on April. Back to camera. But motion on. Cast. All photos. More options. Share. Button.
and that's
Photo taken on
all
April
I
17th.
have. And I cannot For instance, say, hey, I want to rename it. So I have to go into my gallery using like a file manager or something like that, and then rename the picture to say, hey, my knucklehead or something like that, just in case you want to send a picture of you to that little squeeze of yours or some friend of yours. You need to label that so you could distinguish yours from others. And so that's one shortcoming that I notice about our Google camera.